been recording that. I'm putting the recording on, and I'll just cut it when I need to.
All right.
Let's start this thing. Welcome, everybody. This is the I Know Nothing podcast, where you will learn nothing. Today we have on one of my best friends, Alex Coffey. Before he introduces himself, I'm going to explain my first meeting with Alex Coffey. The first meeting I ever had at Cortland, the first human I ever met was the largest human on our team, named Alex Coffey. He had a Red Sox hat down to here, and he wasn't saying a word to me, just staring down. I'm like, hi, is this the baseball meeting? And then ever since then, he became my pal. So, Koff, can you give everybody your elevator pitch of who you are, what you do, and where you came from?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, man. I'm Alex Coffey. I grew up in Hilton, New York, which is like 20 minutes outside Rochester. Played sports my whole life. High school, played football and baseball. Went to Cortland, 4-year there. Well, 5 years, and extra. And then played baseball there, obviously, coached, taught phys ed for 7.5 years, and then felt like I needed to do something else. I got into the fire department, and now I love going to work every day. So
Nice.
yeah.
If there's a fire, you want Alex Coffey walking through the door, everybody, just so you know. I wanna go into youth sports because you and I started talking about it a little bit, and even though I know you so well, I didn't even realize you played travel soccer. So before we get into like the meat of it, what sports did you play growing up, like prior to Cortland?
Growing up, I played soccer, basketball, baseball. I didn't play football. I wasn't allowed to play football until my freshman year of high school. Like soccer was like the thing. Everybody played soccer. I also was too heavy to play football. So they did it all by weight. And I was the age of the youngest team, but I outweighed the oldest team. So they're like, you can't play. So they stuck me in soccer. Played soccer and basketball and baseball through middle school. And then I remember going out for the football team, and I was like, I'm gonna play fullback, and everybody's like, no, you should try quarterback. And the first throw I hit was like a movie scene where it hit the kid in the helmet. No joke. And they're like, do that again, and then that was it. We didn't have like travel, like we played travel soccer, but it wasn't like we're playing this to be professional. Like that was just what everybody in our area did. Like my wife played travel soccer. Like we played for the same, like it's called the Hilton Heat, and like you go
Oh,
to a
wow.
tournament, and it was like you grew up with these kids and played with them. Baseball wise, we played Babe Ruth. We would our farthest game was 20 minutes down the road, and I played basketball until I realized there's a lot of running and not a lot of playing. And not much of a jump shot. I was more just like a 0 points, 10 rebounds type guy. So I gave that up probably freshman year of high school, and then just played football and baseball.
How did you get recruited for baseball then?
I went to a camp at Lemoyne. And at that time, Lemoyne was D1. I think they're D1 again, but everyone's like, oh, D1 this, D1 that. And I don't think I necessarily had the grades to get D1, but Coach Kerner, I don't know if you remember him, he was working the camp. And I got home and there was something in my mailbox from Cortland. And and then Coach Brown's dad actually came and watched a bunch of my games at Hilton because he lived in Rochester. And then I went down for a visit, and I was like, they played Cornell in the fall and turned the scoreboard off because they were beating Cornell so bad. And I'm like, my dad's like, you should come here. I'm like, yeah. So let's do it.
We're gonna get into that D3 D1 combo later. But did you get recruited for football as well?
I did. Not heavy, like local area schools around Rochester. Like coaches would come in and they wanted me to play they're like, you can play other positions other than quarterback. I'm like, I've never played any other position, but like they looked at me as more of like athlete, I guess. And then, but I personally, I love football. I love watching football and
Yeah.
everything. But I had played baseball so long in my life that I was like, I owe it to like myself. I'm gonna play college baseball, you know.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. I couldn't remember if you actually got recruited to play football. I saw the highlight tape, so I know how good you were. Could anybody catch a pass in your team after you hit people in the head?
Nowadays you can't watch those because they're on VHS, dude.
Oh yeah, true. Seriously. Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
kids don't know what that is. They don't know what a
no,
VHS is. Um,
no.
the theme, I know you've watched a couple of them, is most of the people I brought on already are multi-sport athletes who played a college sport. So it's cool that I forgot about the whole soccer thing. The fact that you played soccer as well. And obviously I know how good of an athlete you are, but it just reiterates the fact of kind of one of the messages we're stating on this podcast is multi-sport is still a good thing. But like you said in the beginning, you had rest time. You weren't playing year round in multiple sports and throwing all year. You were splitting up, seasons, and you had rest time, right?
Yeah, yeah. We played a lot of baseball. I grew up in a neighborhood with like 5 of my buddies. We'd play like 2-on-2 tackle football street. It was probably the dumbest thing ever. But like you'd play soccer and then you'd go play basketball or you go to camp and then, it I feel like being an athlete was probably what got me recruited.
Yeah.
I've talked to a buddy of mine, his brother is the coach at a D1 school, and he's like, I try not to focus on the kids that only play baseball. He's like, that's as good as they're going to get. So if I
Interesting.
can get somebody that's an athlete and that has put a lot of time in being an athlete, and maybe I can take them and mold them into this player at this high level, they have potential. And I when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way, you know?
This is a D1 coach.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't say
Oh
where.
yeah, no, don't. That's gonna get people fired up who are
Yeah.
doing their thousand hour T work and paying somebody $1,000 a month. But I'm not gonna
Well, I
get
mean,
into that.
like how many times have you seen like the Shokes player? You know what I mean?
Yes,
Or
a
like
lot.
where, and then there's like guys like me and you where it's like, we're just going to bust our butts as hard as we can and get better and surround ourselves with people that are going to help us get better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, for sure. The kind of my point of, Robbie and I didn't get into it too much when we talked, but we played together for what? We played together for 3 years and then we coached together. But when we were there, obviously Cortland is a good baseball school, but the teams that I was on with you, our teams were filled of multi-sport stud athletes. I mean, who on the field couldn't play multiple sports? Some of us could have played football at Cortland. We just decided not to. So I think it's a great message. And I know times have changed with the recruiting process, but to hear a D1 coach say that to you is interesting. And I hope people still get that because I think I agree with him. I think what happens is when you start to specialize, you don't get all those qualities of being an athlete, of all the things you probably got in soccer, being a quarterback, all those other qualities that you get of being a well-rounded athlete, that transfers over to all sports. So it's definitely something that's being missed.
oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw it, we put together a flag football team and we'd be like, we were sick. You know what I mean? Like we'd be
That
playing
wasn't
these kids.
fair.
But I mean, it's just, I think, especially nowadays, kids are being put in this predicament of choosing a sport like 7 years old. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I've had people, hey, can you give my son a hitting lesson? I'm like, how old is he? He's like 7. And I'm like, just let him play baseball. You know what I mean? Or like,
Wiffle
let him,
ball.
yeah, go in the backyard. Like, I'm not going to give him tip. I don't even remember what I was doing at 7. You know what I mean? Like,
Did
they're
you
going
ever
to,
take a baseball lesson?
I did when I was like a sophomore in high school.
Oh, wow.
And I took like probably like one winter full, and like I didn't really have anywhere to hit. So we actually we would go to school at 6 a.m. and hit before school, and that was about
Oh,
it. And so then my grandma would drive me out to this hitting complex at night. I took a few lessons, nothing crazy, but like never played on a travel really baseball team that go. I coached travel baseball for a
yeah.
couple of years when I got out of college, and like we traveled every weekend, every weekend. And these kids, I mean, it's their life, and they're like, you're a kid, you know what I mean? So
I want to, I guess we're going to work backwards now because I wanted to bring that up about you coaching because I know you coach travel. Can you just kind of explain that? Because I don't even know. I know you did it, but I don't even know anything about like the kids, the tournaments. Like, what did you see? What was your overall kind of like look at it?
I coached some very good players that ended up very good places, but I was at a point in my life where I was like, this is a lot, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I'm not playing anymore. But I was lucky enough that the kids I coached were looking to play at the next level. And at that point, it was more of a showcase team. Like you're going around and playing other 16, 15, 16-year-old teams. Um, the program I was a part of was, I mean, practice twice a week, play tournament games. So you're getting a lot of baseball. And I guess the team I coached, it was beneficial for those kids, because they're playing other kids that are trying to go to college. I never
gotcha.
coached the young kids, but I had a good experience because of the age I coached with. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean?
Yeah. Let's work backwards. I have my perspectives on coaching in college. I only happened for 2 years. I mean, from the baseball side of things, not the outside of it. Of it. Can you talk about you? Would you coach for 3 years at Cortland, or was it two?
2 years.
Without me giving any bias or anything, what was your experience coaching? I know we got to go to a World Series, so it was good. But what was your experience then? Because I think I started seeing the transition of the kid in those years, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our age, we were right at the transition of like a different generation. You know what I mean? So coaching, I got out, I finished playing, and I'm like, I want to coach.
Yeah,
And then after doing it for 2 years, I was like, this is a lot.
yeah,
You're dealing with 30 to 50 personalities. You're and at the college level, there you have freedom. So it's you you're hoping they're responsible too. Um, I enjoyed it probably because of who I was doing it with, mostly,
yeah, yeah,
us, everybody. But it's a lot of work. It's you remember we're on call 24/7.
yeah.
You'd get a text message at midnight, and it's like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about baseball right now, and now I'm going to. And it's a lot. I mean, I always tell everybody my specific, like, most important job was to call restaurants and try and get a deal for our dinner. We're coming with this many guys. I hope you have enough food. Or
Was it a
can you?
Golden Corral by any chance?
Oh my God. Yes, 90% of the time. 90% of the time. I remember one day I was calling and I'm like, nobody's answering. We're in Plattsburgh. And then after like 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, today's Easter. I had no idea.
Oh
No idea
yeah,
it was your Sunday. It's just, it's, there's so much stuff that people have no idea. And, someone especially like Coach Brown, like he's been doing it so long. He's so invested in it. It's his life, and you pick up things that you you carry with you, whether it's you're going to be coaching down the road or even in life, you know, and you're learning every day. It's wild.
Yeah, I think it was really. I think it was a great experience. I agree. I think the reason you and I and Z we even made it through our masters and that is because we lived together. We basically did everything together. But my biggest concern with my own self was I needed like 2 years to go coach somewhere else and like learn how to do it. Like you said, we both finished playing and then went right into coaching, and we went to coaching with arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time in college baseball. So we did get to see how much it takes to be a successful program. Now, now as a strength coach, I've taken stuff that we did, and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, you do need to be thinking about baseball or your job. You have to be doing all these other things if you want to be good. And I think my message is, it's like, it's not just a coaching piece. I think sometimes now with the recruiting and everything else, nobody's appreciating how much time and effort goes into being a coach and the recruiting piece. I mean, everything matters. I remember one of the showcases that Coach Brown sent me to. He was like, I want to see this kid strike out. I don't care if he does good, like, don't even watch. And I was like, what does he mean by that? And he wanted to see how he acted when he wasn't having a good game. And I've been thinking about that forever. And I try to educate my kids. I'm like, guys, that people are watching. I know it's all on Twitter and stuff like that, but a good program, they want to see you fail. And if you're throwing your helmet and you're in some showcase tournament, somebody's there watching.
Well, dude, it's like I remember being told I had the worst at bat in Cortland history once. And like,
can you go through that at bat? What happened?
Like, it was I was at Oswego. Fastball. We were down like 1, and like saw 2 fastballs, 0-2. I'm like, great, and kid throws me a curveball, and I swing and miss, and I just get the stare, and I'm like, oh man. I sit down and bench. It's like, that was the worst at bat in Cortland history.
Oh God!
So if anything, that's the trophy I have.
Shout out, Coach Brown. I think he wants to be on this podcast. I think we need to have a round table with maybe some ex coaches and ex players. Maybe that's how we'll have fun with that podcast.
Oh man.
One of the things I mentioned in the beginning is, like, you and I grew to be like best friends. We kind of grew up together in this weird non-adult adult age where we played together, we competed together, we played for a national championship together, we coached together, we coached in a World Series together. And I don't know, what was it, a year or 2 ago now? Like, I still was traveling to go see you at your house in Rochester. You came to see me at my house. And the point is, and a message I've been trying to get across to people is, sports only last for so long, unfortunately. And one of the things I'm seeing is, like, it's all about me, 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 me. And kids are going and bouncing around from school to school to school, and they're not making these type of relationships. And I know we have a lot of similar friends, but can you touch on, like, stuff? I know you have friends from high school that are still your best friends, but you played sports with them, and then through Cortland, all those things matter later on in life. And I think that's something that's being missed right now.
Well, I always tell people, like, the best thing that ever happened to me was going away to college. Whether you're going to play D3, D1, whether you're just going to college, like, you're at this age where you have to be responsible and you're on your own, but you also have all this freedom, and you're learning, like, how to live with the people you surround yourself with. You know what I mean? Like, you're learning how to be a better person, or maybe I shouldn't go out and eat chicken wings tonight, and maybe I should read this
right
book. Maybe I read a lot of books, but I always say the people I went to college with, I'm closer with than the people I grew up with, because you're at this point in your life where you're basically surviving off of each other,
Yeah.
And like, we would go, specifically us, we'd go play, like, practice or play, and then we could go eat, and then we go home. We all live together,
Right.
And it's like, most of the time you get to pick who you live with. So, like, I was very fortunate. I live with some good people. Remember, like, we had the two houses together next to each other. Like you're around your friends all the time, but literally like it was the greatest thing that happened to me. Having this freedom, but having to figure out how to live life too,
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, I think there
It's
probably isn't a month that goes by that I'm not telling a story from those years. And as crazy as it sounds, that was 10 years ago. 2014 was 10 years ago. That was our Masters. So it is
oh
wild to
my
think about.
God. Yeah.
We
It flies by.
It really does. I want to. I know we're on the Zoom here, and I only get 40 minutes, and it's not giving my countdown. So there's a couple. I want to go through, like, you did the whole phys ed route at Cortland, and then you taught adaptive PE for 7.5 years. You said.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you kind of just go through like the PE, how it was for you at Cortland, what you did with your masters, and then your kind of route getting into it and getting out of it.
Yeah. So did undergrad phys ed, and then master's was adapted phys ed. So it's basically specializing in kids with disabilities. Master's was mostly hands-on. We'd go up and teach kids up at the hospital in Syracuse. I worked part-time in a school where I was the adapted PE teacher. Then I worked 2 years back in my old high school as like a alternative education specialist, they called it. So I was dealing with kids that have behavior issues mainly. But then I went to another school where it was kids came to this school basically because they can get all their needs. They get OT, PT, speech pathology. They get adapted phys ed. They have a one-to-one aid. So you're dealing with a class where there's 10 kids and some are nonverbal. Some have trigger words where you can't say certain words or else, it's kids that struggle to communicate their needs and stuff like that. So I didn't necessarily dislike it at all. I just felt like I could do more, and I really missed being a part of like a team. And I was like, well, I was in the gym one day and this kid comes up and he's like, what do you do for a living? And starts talking to me about it. I'm like, man, that sounds like something I would love to do. And you take a civil service test, and I scored well, and here I am almost 3 years later now. So
wow, it's been 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years in January. Yeah. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You were just talking about how you were at the gym. I want you to kind of explain to everybody like your whole lifting career, like when you started it up to the point of what you do now.
So I remember in high school, like for football, we only did like I was thinking about this last night. I'm like, I remember bench pressing and like doing like tricep extensions and like running.
Hey, that makes a lot of sense, Coff.
That's all I remember doing. And then we did my senior year, like my baseball coach, I remember brought in like a personal trainer, and he started mixing in forearms and like different stuff. But really not till I got to college, I started lifting. But I mean, we still bench press heavy always. Like it was like the thing. I don't know why.
Have you stopped bench pressing?
No. I've stopped with the barbell, but I mostly dumbbells 95% of the time now. So like, I was always like the back and bis and chest and tries. And then I remember I didn't lift legs for 2 years after I got out of college. And I was 250, like 250 pounds. And I'm like, I gotta do something, man, because it's a typical meathead,
Have
And
you changed your training at all?
Yes, I used to lift like everything's like 5 reps, like five. I know I want to get big, and now it's like I'll do supersets. I changed my plan, so I do like a 4-day rotation. I do chest and back, arms, legs and shoulders, and then an off day. But The off days whenever. Like if I take an off day, I don't skip whatever was supposed to be next. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
I I also, as you're getting older, I've incorporated more cardio, stairmaster, even just walking. Like walking
Yeah.
on an incline. Like I got heavy for a while, and I started walking, and I'm like, this isn't hard. And whether you can do it as a warm up, or I always walk 20 minutes as a warm up. That's just my thing, you know. And it's better to do that for me than go and tweak something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I started doing a lot of tempo. That was the new thing. A guy I work with is like, been telling me for like a year. And so like I'll go like 3 seconds down with a pause, and then I explode up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not lifting as heavy, but man, I feel great, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just something that works for me. I mean, everybody's always asking me questions. Like they know I go to the gym, whatever. I'm like, dude, you gotta I can give you like an idea, but like you have to find out what works for you. And
You're,
you know, but
you're hitting the nail on the head right now. Keep going.
like well, COVID was a big thing for me. So like the gym's my time, you know. I go to the gym. I'm in like this. It's my place. Like I listen to the Grateful Dead at the gym. I'm not like jacked up, you know. This is my time. And like when COVID hit, I'm like, oh my god, like what am I gonna do? So I started walking like 6 miles a day. You know, I was working from home.
Yeah.
And I could do that. And then I was like, my brain started working different. I'm like, I never walked. I never ran. I never did the stair. Like I remember doing the stairs. I'm like 5 minutes on a stair machine is the hardest thing in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like 50. But now I've incorporated more of that because of what I do at work now too, especially like I don't want to be the guy that's out of breath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the sweatiest guy. That's always gonna happen. But if I'm out of breath and I'm doing something wrong, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You made such a good point. And by the way, guys, this is not scripted at all. This is just Coff and I talking here. I just literally put a post out this morning about the simplicity of training, and something that just kind of sparked in my head when you were talking is you've just been doing this for a long time on your own with a little guidance, on your own with a little guidance. And now you're at the point where you're still changing things up, but you've been constantly getting better and better and better. And I completely agree. It doesn't, my workout program is going to be different than yours, but if we're both getting results, who cares? Right. And as long as you're healthy, who cares? So it's a big message I've been trying to get across to my athletes, but now I'm starting to help out other strength coaches, and the education is so bad where it's like, we got to do this fancy stuff. It's like, no. Play sports, get really good at your skills in your sports, and then just use the weight room as necessary. And it's just, I mean, you and I love the weight room. So like, yes, I agree. That's where I hang out too. Like that's where I get my time. But it needs to be helping you. Like you've made adjustments to help your job, but also to help you at this point in your life.
Yeah, like I'll know like when I do exercise, most of the time they're similar, but then I'll find something on YouTube or I'll find something on Instagram, and I'll be like, that might make sense. I'll try it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
if it sucks, it sucks, you know, but uh, like I've started implementing more, because I'm a meathead, I do incline dumbbell, curls because I
Okay.
watch
Yeah. Yeah.
and if I'm tempo on the way down this video and I went into like a rabbit hole, you know, it's like
Yeah.
your biceps are under pressure longer on this particular exercise. And I'm like, oh, let me try that. You know what I mean? So it's just I'll superset incline rows with incline bench press. And that's just something I saw and I was like, I like this, you know?
I love it. It's just the journey of lifting weights. It takes a long time. You've been lifting for over a decade, right? And you're still
Yeah.
constantly changing things up. So everybody, it takes time. You don't get results in 2 seconds.
No.
I just got the 7-minute alert. So I want you to talk about your fasting real quick, if you don't mind. Just like when you started it and kind of what, if you're still doing it. I don't even know if you're still doing it.
Yeah. So, when I gave up coaching like 5 years ago, I was coaching high school. I was like, it's not for me, and I was heavy. I was like 270. I'm like, man, like
Woo!
I got to do something. I wasn't weak. I wasn't fat, but I was thick. And so I was talking to a buddy. I'm like, I got to do something. And he's like, I'm like, what's this intermittent fasting, whatever? And he's like, it's not a diet. He's like, it's a lifestyle. And I'm like, okay. And I've been doing it ever since. So like the first month I did it, I lost like 20 pounds. I was eating snacks till like I go to bed and stuff like that. And like I was waking up eating like 4 yogurts. I'm like, I don't need 4 yogurts. And so I just skipped breakfast,
Yeah.
and now my brain, I fast for 16 hours a day. That's my thing. 16 hours, maybe 18, maybe 20 if I'm get caught in a window where I'm at the gym. I lift fasted. Um, and I eat right after. That's my thing. I
Yeah.
time it. So right after I get a lift, and people are like, are you feeling like weak? I'm like, no, I have all this energy, this stored energy,
Yeah.
and in all this stuff I ate yesterday, that's how my brain works now. So like, I don't need this garbage. I mean, yeah, breakfast is good. You can do breakfast good or bad, but like,
Yeah.
I don't need 500 calories in the morning to get going. I don't need that. I drink black coffee and water.
Yeah.
And
I think I think the big point of it is like it's not the fasting. Yes, you fast and that's your thing, but it's helped your habits over time. You have changed your lifting, you've changed your eating, but it works for you. And because I get questions all the time. I haven't touched nutrition on this podcast a lot, but it's like, oh, should I fast? Should I do it for 17 hours or 16? Like you just said, you skip breakfast and then you time your lift around when you're going to eat. That's it. And you've been doing it for how many years now?
probably 5.
Right. 5 years,
Yeah.
and it's gone such a long way. And it's just like that's your foundation. It's not like that kid, like that guy said to you, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And I think, you and I always talk about the fasting, but I agree. I mean, I do forms of it as well because of my habits, not because I care about the breakfast or not. So it's super important.
Oh,
We're at the
believe me, I'll eat breakfast. Like Bills game on a Sunday, I'm eating breakfast. Like
you've
that's
allotted
just
metabolic flexibility with your fasting. That's what the research tells me. All right, we
yeah.
got 4 minutes, and
Dang.
I want to get to these. I know that's how fast it goes. I told you. Um, I've been asking everybody. So, if you had to give one or two pieces of advice strictly to athletes, so the future high schoolers and college athletes of Hilton High School, what do you got?
I mean, you're gonna come across people that either know what they're doing or don't know what they're doing. Like you need to take things that are being told to you, and whether it's everything or pieces of that, take it and piece it together to make your own thoughts, your own theories. Um, like, it's called I Know Nothing podcast. Like literally when I got in the fire department, I was like, I know nothing, and I you surround I was lucky enough to start with a good crew, and I'm on a good crew now. And it's like you ask a question and it's like, wow, I would have never thought that, or that makes a lot of sense. Like you need to be a sponge essentially. And literally, especially or when you're like in high school, dude, you know nothing. You know absolutely nothing.
Yes,
And and, and the more you can ask, the more you can ask other people. It's not bashing anybody or anything like that, just learning from everyone. It's
I love it. I
you
love it.
you learn
It's so
what to
important.
do and what not to do.
So important. All right, we got 2:20. Real quick, you got to give one tip to parents of those athletes.
Oh, one tip to parents. I mean, one tip to you. It's very rare that like your kid's best kid on their team. Yet, let alone like some parents think their kids are the best in the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you can just teach your kid to basically work hard, trust what they're being told, and hard work doesn't go unnoticed. I truthfully believe that.
Agreed.
And like, you know, your kids are gonna make mistakes. Teach them to own up to it. You know, I messed up. Boom. And just don't be so serious. You know,
I love it.
Live life. You know.
I love that. I love that. I knew this was going to happen, but I don't want to start another Zoom here. So we're going to definitely do a part 2. This might just be the roundtable thing in the future. We have a lot of stories we didn't get to. I think it'd be fun to get everybody on here. Coff, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. It was pretty cool to hear some stuff that I never even learned before. So you got anything for the people? Anything for the people?
Just
part 2 coming someday soon.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Coff. Everybody, this is the I Know Nothing podcast. Later.
See it.